Do you have any guidance on how to stay rooted in detachment and not let doubt and fear manifest? Well, as you know, essential teaching in all teachings, spiritual teachings really, is in self-observation. And you can't really practice self-observation, or let's say self-observation is in itself a form of detachment, because you have to have this more objective part of you, part of your awareness, that is observing reality, observing your experience. A lot of the time when we practice self-observation, especially in the beginning, we think that we're self-observing. But if we are mostly being overtaken by a lot of feelings, emotions, our physical body is being overwhelmed, we're being pulled by every unconscious desire, then the level of self-observation is not actually so active. It's not dominating. There's not enough force behind it. So the key to that, of course, is continuing and staying diligent in self-observation and observing those spiritual challenges that come up. And it can be quite fun if you're enthusiastic about it and really willing to deepen your practice. So, for example, you may get up one day and say you will self-observe, but of course there's going to be a lot of challenges that come up. Things that would usually bring you into unconsciousness, whether it's, food, certain desires, a lot of things, even just normal daydreams. But the practice is simply just to observe it. That means to truly understand where these things are coming from, why, their impact on our life, and simply continuing with that. Of course, setting yourself an actual time for meditation in order to really observe the mind just in a totally balanced way, and seeing it, then you create this detachment, right? You create this inner space for simply observing your own nature. So usually, if we say detachment or self-observation, we try to, it's like we muster some willpower in order to self-control ourselves in a certain way. And sometimes we can do that in a way that is quite ignorant, because we're actually ignoring our unconsciousness. But self-observation and detachment, in a true way, is about also observing the doubts and the fear that comes up too. And being able to just not identify with that, and having this warrior spirit in order to just observe it, observe your nature. And of course, if there is a lot of doubt and fear, that is very painful. It can be very painful, right? But that's the challenge. That's the fight against oneself. It's like what Jesus said. Anyone who wants to follow me, meaning anyone who wants to follow the Christ, should take up their cross, right? And walk with your cross. Each one of us has a cross. Sometimes it's a small cross. Sometimes it's very big. When the cross is very big, that's our pain. That's our spiritual challenge as a person, right? So it may be very difficult and very painful, but eventually we realize, the pain is ultimately an illusion. But that illusion can be very painful, right? So it's really about tenacity, strength, and patience. See how long you can carry your own cross for in self-observation and detachment. You asked whether, it has meaning to it. Yeah, I would always say that there always is, especially because it creates this conflict and this inner turmoil and sort of crisis in our lives. And any type of crisis in our lives is it's a calling, or it's an opportunity, or it's something that pushes us towards, almost forces us to reflect and go into, eventually, into a more mature state of being, because it takes us out of our usual uh, mode of consciousness that we were in before. But of course, if there were very strong emotions and reactions and drama, anger, sadness, that this leaves a very strong emotional mark on the energy of our body and our inner bodies. So a lot of patience is going to be required until something else comes into your life. So really having a lot of trust and a lot of faith in whatever is happening in our lives will help. And yes, it's happening to you, but it mainly happening to the people closest to you, right? So keeping sort of the third factor in mind, that and considering that other people are mainly going through this suffering, and having compassion for them, and wishing for them to hopefully overcome that. That's the best you can do in that regard. The thing is, we're not always fortunate to have harmonious relationships with, let's say, our mothers or our wives or husbands, or our relationships in general. And as you know, these teachings are always about trying to disidentify or disconnect from the external world. And ultimately, this process is about detaching from the external relationships too. Not pushing people out of our lives, but realizing ultimately that everything, all the harmony and the peace that we seek, can also come from within. And it's very difficult. It's a big thing to ask in this day and age of the state of consciousness of humanity today, that everyone is harmonious. You know, everyone has ego, everyone has suffering, everyone is well, not everyone is bearing their own cross, right? But everyone has their cross, but everyone's suffering because they're not learning to embrace that cross, right? So what I'm saying is, there is your connection internally to your own Divine Mother. And that is the connection that is going to be the most supportive, the one that is going to help you heal through your relationships with, family. And it's a presence within yourself that is going to help you no matter how difficult things get, no matter how challenging and how strong emotions and how big our cross is. As long as there is the presence of our Divine Mother with us, whether we have or do not have a good relationship with our physical mother, whether we have or do not have a good relationship with our partner, our spouse, as long as there is the Divine Mother there. Because, we always talk in Gnostic teachings like, okay, find a partner, do alchemy. But the deeper truth is that as long as you have this connection to your Divine Mother, this is something that is, it's going to help you more. And it's fundamentally more important. Not to take any importance away from, the relationships and the struggles that you're having now. But yeah, I hope it gets better. And I would suggest prayer, because of course we have to do everything we can in our power, in our physical actions to help those that we love. But there's only so much you can do, right? And you can't put unrealistic expectations on yourself. So as long as your heart is good and you've done your best, you may only pray and wish, for the betterment of others, and continue in your own development and in patience. And as long as your conscience is clear on that, you can only be a sort of example for others. And as long as you stay in your own center, when people do talk to you, you'll probably find that you'll become a source for them to find more peace, because they sense something more transcendental in you that is not so identified with the strong egoic stories that they're going through, right? Because people are usually, when they're going through strong drama in their life, it's like there is a record player being constantly played in their mind about certain dramas, about certain challenges and obstacles. And so they're very identified with this. But if you can stay in your center, present in compassion, usually a person may be able to sense your level of patience with them, and then you may be able to provide something helpful for them. Sometimes it's not always advice and what your opinions and what you have to say, but rather it may just be your own presence, your own vibration, so to speak. So